This video is for Jim. Show you the Lee Classic turret press. This is one of the turrets. I've got the Lee 4-die set installed in here for 45 Colt. So to install them, just drop them in like that. Now, this is the auto-indexing rod. It's got a little plastic piece on the top that engages in with the turret. And then this piece sits down here on the bottom, and it's held in place with a screw. I took that off also because I like to do the indexing manually like this. With it removed, you can turn this thing in any direction that you want. You can skip a station if you want to. You just have a lot of flexibility, and I'm used to doing it that way. Now, it comes with two primer arms, and they both, at a glance, they look the same, and even looking at them this way, you have to look close to tell which one's for large and which one's for small primers. So what I did was I took some nail polish and just put an L on the large and an S on the small. That way I can tell at a glance. So this is 45 long Colt, which takes a large primer arm. So you just take them and drop them down in there like that. That's how they go in. There's a roll pin in there that engages into this little hook area right there. That's what keeps it in the right spot. And then here's your shell holder for a 45 long Colt. So that's it right there. Now, when this thing is lowered all the way, you'll notice that that primer pin is sticking up through the shell holder. Well, what that also means is if you have a shell in there and you lower it all the way, you can't pull a shell out or put one in, because that primer device is holding it captive. So because of that, what I do is I do all of my this is the decapping and resizing die. So I put a shell in there that needs resizing. I pick up a primer, I drop it in there, and then I run that up into the die, and then when I lower it, I push it forward and reprime. Then I have to raise it up just a little bit so I can take this one off and put the next one on. Okay? So after I've done my batch like that, then what I do is I just pop this off, take the primer arm out, and put the shell holder back in. Now I can lower the shell holder down as low as I want to, and it won't interfere. The primer arm won't interfere with it, taking shells in and out. So I use the primer arm for this very first stage, and that's it. Then after that, I just remove it, and I don't worry about it for the rest of the operation. Now on the second die, this is your expander die. It flares the mouth of the cartridge so that you can get a bullet to start. That one's already flared, and see now if you don't flare it, you can't. The bullet won't go in there to start it. Now what you got to do, these dies come, there's a hole in the middle of them which lets you flare the mouth and also drop the powder in. Now when you get them from Lee, they have this little aluminum plug at the top which has got a hole in the middle of it, and Lee makes a funnel that fits in there just perfect like that. So you can run your casing up like this and just dump in a measured charge. Let's say you were doing real precision shooting and you were measuring every one of them on your scale. You take it off the pan and just dump it in. Okay. Now, what I'm doing is I'm using this auto drum measuring device. And I've already got a riser screwed on there. And what you have to do is when you first install the turret, you unscrew this plug and take the little O-ring off. Put the plug back in the box so you don't lose it. The O-ring goes on here, and then you just screw it down into your die. Okay, like that. Now that's already adjusted, and I've locked the adjustment with this die lock ring. Now, what you'll notice when I run this up in there, you'll see that it's operating the mechanism for dumping the powder. And then here's the hopper for the powder, which sits on top like that. Okay. So the adjustment here with this auto drum is that you've got to get this thing so it comes up far enough. If it doesn't come up far enough, it won't operate it all the way. It'll just be a partial operation like that. It won't drop any powder, or maybe not enough. After a while, you'll see how far you have to bring it up. Now, if you bring it up too far, then you'll start crushing your cases. So you have to bring it up almost really to a full stroke, but without going too far. All right. So that's that stage. The next stage, these dies have the potential to do two things. They can seat a bullet and crimp at the same time, but because you've got a 4-die set, the 4th die is your crimper. So what you do with these is you screw them down until you can feel the crimping part touching the case, and then you back it out. I back it out about a turn. And then this knob up here is used to control how deep the bullet is put in. So you start like this, and you run it up in there, and you keep turning this down until the bullet is seated to the proper depth. And the proper depth depends on the caliber and what type of bullet you're using, etc. And then the 4th die is the crimper. Now, in the 4-die set, this also does two things. It's got a carbide insert, because if you're using cast lead bullets, sometimes these aren't perfectly round, and you can end up with small little bulges in the case from the bullets not being perfectly round. But when it goes in through this carbide ring, it irons out any imperfections in the cast bullet, and then this knob adjusts the crimp right here. The other thing I wanted to show you is when you've got 4 dies in there, you can see that the die-like rings are pretty close to each other, and you don't have a whole lot of room in here to get a wrench. I think that's 1 1/4 inches. So RCBS makes a thin-walled socket. I think I paid $8 for this thing. And of course it works on RCBS lock rings, but it also fits these Lee ones and works just perfect. So you can now, when you lock this one down good, you might have to unscrew this so you can get this over it. But the rest of them, you can just put this right over top of it and hold your turret, and you can loosen these up. Now there is some play in here, but it engages on all the corners, and it'll tighten them and loosen them, no problem. And then the way I store these turrets is I went out and bought a 3/8 inch hardwood dowel, and if you cut these I got a scrap piece of lumber and drill 3/8" holes in it with my drill press, and then pound a section of this stuff into the piece of wood, and then these just will sit right up on there like that, and they're stable. 3/8" hardwood dowel. At the bottom, I don't know if it's in the field of view. At the bottom, you've got this this tube that catches the primers, and I have on the end of it, I have the little red cap. And when I see it's getting full, I'll just empty it into a can. Some people probably just leave it open at the bottom and just set a small trash can down there to catch all the primers. So I hope this helps.